just started decorating my Christmas tree. I've put up a good chunk of the ornaments, but I finally managed to get a live potted Christmas tree, and of course it doesn't have super duper strong branches. So what I am thinking I will do is make some lighter weight Christmas ornaments, and why not make them a little bit nerdy, do some D&D themed, and just sort of show you how I like to make my ornaments. I've got a few different supplies, like needle felting supplies, some Sculpey, maybe I'll even do some resin casting ones, depending on how we go. But let's just jump on in. So the first one that we are going to do is needle felting, because I really love how it turns out. It feels it feels homemade in a good way. I'm also just a fan of that sort of craft themed ornament style. I made one to look like my current cat, which is like one of my favorite ornaments on my tree. I'd wanted to do it with my previous cat, but he was a tabby and I was not up to doing all of those stripes, but I thought it would be fun. I don't have a ton of colors. I've got sort of monochrome of black, white, lots of white, and a little bit of gray. Then I've also got 2 different shades of blue, and then the third lot is these sort of pastel-y colors where I've got some various pinks, this aqua-y blue, and purple. I've also just got some sheets of felt that I might sort of beef them up with or do different variations of, because I thought like doing a D&D, like your D&D character would be really cute. I was going to do my gray half-orc, and I might try and do that out of felt because I've definitely got some felt. I also have some yarn that I might be able to sort of brush back out into roving and then felt from there, and that might work too. I'm going to be trying it with some single ply yarn because that is just a single strand twisted rather than multiple strands twisted. I've got some wire and some armature wire over on my desk that I can use as a base as well. You can also use pipe cleaners or whatever, and it just gives you something to wrap around and create a frame. So let's give it a go. I have got my yarn here, and we're just going to try taking this comb and see what comes of brushing it. I think I'm only going to do about as much for head, maybe hands. My character wears black, so I'm going to do black for the shirt, or I think the shirt. She wears a little blue tunic, so that will go over the top. I might try and find some fabric for that instead of doing it with felt, but we shall see. I have also worked out you can just sort of pull it, untwist it in the way that it's in the opposite direction, so you can see it's got this kind of a twist. So I'm just going backwards and then pulling out chunks. It doesn't make it as fluffy, but I'm hoping then I can go through, kind of brush these together, and it creates a bit more of a nice kind of roving. I'm gonna just keep doing that. I've got this much so far, so I'll just do a little bit more and then we should be good. Okay, there is a garbage truck going past and my partner is on a call, so we'll see if you guys can hear me. I just wanted to talk a little bit about needle felting supplies. So this is pretty much all you need for starting out with needle felting. You need a needle felting needle. It has little ridges and things in it so that it catches the yarn to help it collapse in on itself. You need a foam mat to poke into to protect your fingers and your table and anything else. I actually sometimes use this foam thing as well because this one's a little thin. And just some careful aim and time to sort of compact it together, and it does get smaller and smaller and smaller as you work. So if you want it to be this big, don't just get this much roving. You're going to need way more because felting squishes things down really tightly and keeps them there. So what I want to do, because I don't want to make it too big, and I feel like I'm going to make it too big. My tree is small. I'm just going to draw out a quick little shape of what I want my armature to be, so that I know she's not going to get bigger than that. I hope. Not too much bigger, at least. I really want to try and use this as much as possible, so I'm going to start there. And just kind of trace the little figure. Just grabbing out some pliers to try and get this a little closer in. Although that's not a bad idea too. There we go. So hopefully this will just kind of give us something to grip onto a little bit. Something to wrap onto with this. It's not necessarily going to be our complete structure, but it's only little, which means I probably have way more green than I need. I started by wrapping around little strands of the roving and then just going through with my needle trying to attach them on. Once these were in place, I could start to build it up more and more. I just sort of progressively kept working on the head and then doing the body and just getting it to a place where I was happy with it. For the hands, I just balled up little tiny bits of felt and hand felted them between my fingers initially, and then went back through with the needle just to finalize the shape. Make sure that you leave strands on. In this case, I just pulled off what I needed, so that you can attach it to the arm in that way. I then wrapped it with some black, just to make sure that there was no green poking through, but it was all going to be securely attached on. I opted to use a scrap of light blue linen for my character's tunic. This I honestly just rough cut and left the ends to sort of fray and look a little bit weather worn. I secured the tunic with a little bit of light blue thread at the back of the neck, and then wrapped a little bit of linen thread around the waist for just a little bit of definition. For the hair, I folded a small section of black roving in half and lightly attached the wispy ends to the back of the head with the rest of it facing towards the front. Then I wrapped the roving around into the back to create a neat little hairline and sort of create the bushy loop to be the back of the hair. This just keeps it all neat and tidy, and I just went over with a second piece to just thicken it out a bit. The ears were made with more tiny sections of green, again hand felted and twisted to create little points, then carefully attached to either side of the head.
I made a cloak out of another small rectangle of this time black fabric, just gathering up the edge for the hood and then down about an inch for the neckline. Her shield was made from a scrap of faux leather from a strap I had previously pulled apart and painted with her god's symbol in acrylics. I added the same symbol to her tunic just for that extra bit of decoration.
So thinking again, I think Sculpey's going to be too heavy, but I finished the little, my little half-orc cleric up to a point. She just needs her weapon. So I'm going to dive into my stash, see what I can find that I think will be suitable for a weapon, and then maybe we'll do a few more little felt ornaments. I've also got some miscast resin that I might be able to use for something, so we're just going to have a little bit of a play around.
I opted to do a 2cm by 1cm warhammer for my little cleric since that's her weapon of choice as her level 3 starter weapon. I just eyeballed the strips for the handle, leaving 2 thicker tabs at the bottom to prevent it from pulling through where it will attach. I scored everything with my X-Acto knife just to help it bend and keep its shape a little bit better and neater. I cut a tiny hole for the handle to poke through, relying on those tabs again to keep it in place. Since it's just an ornament, I put the box together with tape and relied on the paint to help hold it together. It seemed to work pretty well, but we'll see how she looks next year. For the hammer's base coat, I used Citadel's Leadbelcher all over. When that dried, I dry brushed on some black acrylic paint to give it some dimension, and as a final touch, I painted on another little star to one of the long sides of the hammer in Leadbelcher. To attach the hammer, I used black thread poking once through the hammer's handle and otherwise wrapping around and going through the arm of my little cleric. The shield was attached in the same manner, but making sure to catch the shoulder and cloak of the character. My character has a sentimental blue scarf that she wears in cold weather. I attempted to knit one a few times, but found it just looked nicer to use crochet to make a long chain instead. To make her into an ornament, I just used one of the ornament hooks, slipped into the back of her head, and then pinched closed securely.
Well, putting my little cleric Willow together took a little bit longer than I anticipated, so I'm a tiny bit tired, but I think I've got it in me to do one other ornament. And this one, I think we're going to just follow along with a free pattern that I found. And it's for a mushroom, and I will put the link in the description for the pattern that I'm going to follow. Not necessarily D&D specific, but like, I like woodland ornaments on my tree, and it's sort of, I don't know, Goblin Core-esque, which is, it's D&D adjacent. Or definitely fantasy and sort of magical, especially because I'll do I'm going to change it up and I'm going to do red, your classic red and white poison mushroom. So I've got my 10 ply wool and my 4mm double pointed needles, and let's just chill out, put something on, and enjoy knitting.
This pattern can be knit flat or in the round. I opted for in the round using 4mm double pointed needles and Aran weight yarn. I used Judy's Magic Cast On for the very beginning just because I like that you don't have to really deal with any kind of bumps or lumps. And I chose to make the gills the same color as the stem just because I didn't have an extra option for it. I used some spare black yarn to stuff the head of this little mushroom here, and then I also used the same yarn to stuff the stem once I get to that point in knitting it. I think for the stem I would actually stuff it with a lighter colored yarn instead of the black, just because it kind of shows through a bit more than I would like, but I do really like it for the head of the mushroom. I killed two birds with one stone here and chose to use some white fingering weight wool to both anchor the little mushroom head so it was a bit flatter and make the spots for my mushroom. With the spots on, all that was left was to attach the hook.
So that is the 3 D&D slash fantasy slash woodland ornaments that I thought would be fun to add to the tree this year. Probably the most time intensive one was the needle felting one, but it's also the one that I kind of enjoyed making the most. It also kind of wiped me out a little bit, so the mushroom was very fun to knit, but it did take a little bit of converting in my head to make it in the round. It was also really fun to get to represent one of my new characters on my Christmas tree. I think it would also just be a really cute, fun little gift, like a birthday gift even, or if you make them like a dice bag or something like that and have that as even a keychain or a charm could be really cute. I think that has quite a bit of versatility, and you don't even have to make it a D&D character. You could make it their favorite fantasy character if you wanted to. You can also add facial features. I opted not to, although I did think tusks would have been really cute, but I just knew that I didn't have the sort of dexterity to be able to create the facial features on my little character. That's it for this project. If you like this video, you can check out my other videos, and if you really like this video, you can feel free to subscribe. I hope you have a lovely week. Bye!